either live by the gun or you die by the sword.
Welcome to The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. I'm Nico.
And I'm Chris.
And today we are kicking off spooky season just a tad bit early this year. We are doing a movie that's based off everyone's favorite dark ride.
Yes.
And something that, just something a little for everyone instead of what we're planning to do later this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we actually have a full list of mature theme movies this year instead of a spoopy movie. So
yes, so this is the spoopy movie.
Yes, just a little bit earlier. We're doing Haunted Mansion.
The 2003, starring none other than Eddie Murphy.
Oh, yes. Yeah. Well, so before we really get into this, I do have a little bit of housekeeping I need to address.
Okay.
I made a mistake in our last full episode.
Uh-huh.
Sugi's record for eating pizza isn't 3 minutes, it's 14 minutes.
That's still impressive and too much pizza.
Yes. Also, my apologies to Sugi, but also I look forward to seeing him next week. We're going to be doing a special, very, very special episode, spotlight episode for The Good, the Bad, and the Weird to really, really kick off October with him in actuality. So
awesome.
Yeah. So I'm not doing a live recording for that, but we're doing something.
Yes.
So, but anywho, The Haunted Mansion. So, for those who don't know, The Haunted Mansion is a family comedy based off the Disney dark ride of the same name and is about a family that gets trapped in a mansion under a curse.
Ooh, it's very Disney Channel.
Well, I also love this because we just did a movie about a different kind of curse.
Yes.
And we just did another Disney movie. So we're doing like this weird era, like family-friendly era, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so. So
The Haunted Mansion is directed by Rob Minkoff and written by David Berenbaum. Or Berenbaum. It stars Eddie Murphy.
Of course.
Marsha Thompson.
Yep.
Terrence Stamp and Nathan Parker, to name a few.
Yep.
For those who don't know of Minkoff, he is probably better known as the director or one of the directors of 1994's The Lion King.
Yeah, you've seen his work, don't worry.
As well as Stuart Little 1 and 2.
Uh-huh.
And that was all before the Haunted Mansion.
Yes.
And Berenbaum, he had only written Elf at this point.
Which, I mean, another classic, another solid classic.
Yeah. Also, just to point out a little bit, Eddie Murphy, everyone knows him.
Yes.
So I don't have to go too deeply into his stuff, but looking like at his film history, especially because of like doing that with Shanghai Noon, we're definitely deep in his family-friendly era.
Yes.
Having done The Nutty Professor 1 and 2 at this point, Mulan, Dr. Dolittle 1 and 2, the first Shrek movie, and I Spy are probably like, and also his best family-friendly besides Shrek, Daddy Daycare.
Yes. And this is the era for me that, like, really teeter-totters Eddie Murphy for me.
Okay.
I love Shrek. I think him in Shrek is hilarious. Donkey was one of my favorites when I was a kid. I like Daddy Daycare. I thought it was hilarious. Pretty funny. Some of the other ones, I don't find funny at all.
Yeah, it's also that weird era where, like, Jackie Chan was doing family-friendly stuff, like...
And it always felt like he was better at it than Eddie Murphy was.
Well, yeah, and especially this movie, because this movie has that borderline a little, like, it's not really, like, on the nose or kind of hidden adult humor. It's just straight up adult humor that doesn't, like, really work.
Yeah, and I kind of get what they were trying to do. Because the original ride famously was forced to balance comedy and, like, actual spookiness. It had two very prominent Imagineers working on it who had very different opinions on what the ride should be and were physically forced to work together on it. Neither one of them wanted the other one's idea to work, but it had to. That was the requirement, was they were working on this together. So I see kind of why they wanted, like, a known comedy person for a ride that it had to be family friendly. This is something based off of Disney. And it's not just like well, I could see how this might be an adult thing. No, like, this was straight up them cashing in on Pirates of the Caribbean, working out well.
It's not like Disney trying to do they did do a horror movie, I think in the 70s or early 80s, called The Watchers in the Woods.
Yeah, this is not their attempt at horror at all. This is them fully knowing and trying to cash in on, like, Pirates was a success.
Mm-hmm.
What if we did something about another ride that everyone loves?
Yeah, which is kind of a weird thing too, because like Pirates wasn't a kids-friendly movie to begin with either.
But the ride's really not super kid-friendly.
Oh, is it?
Well, they've made it more so, and like it's kid-friendly because it's in Disney. Like it's not. It's going to be. You're going to be hard pressed to find truly not family-friendly in Disney at all.
Okay, so this is. And to be fair, I did purposely stay ignorant of the ride and the ride history.
And I am a fanatical fan of this ride. I think the engineering is brilliant.
Exactly why I left this to you. But I think I know where it's coming from then, because this is the era in Disney where they're very much so just kind of throwing stuff at an amusement park and seeing what sticks, rather than having like the big themes that they currently have.
Kind of. So the ride was actually part of Disney's original concept for Disneyland.
Okay.
So the ride has 3 iterations of itself, because we're now at a point where there is more than one Disney World.
Yes.
So the original OG is in Disneyland, and it used a lot of technology and engineering that really set it above everything else. Disney had ideas for it. He was one of the founding reasons why it took the form that it did in like a New Orleans spooky mansion.
Okay.
And not a rundown house. Like, he had vision for it. Unfortunately, he did die like 6 years before they finished it. Part of that was because he spent a lot of time getting prepared for the World's Fair, so they kept pushing the ride back. But it's not an OG ride, but it is as close as you can get nowadays, because I think we're down to like 2 OG rides at Disneyland.
Okay. Yeah. Interesting.
But so Pirates and this one were both aimed at, like, yes, you can bring your kiddo on it. No problem, sure. But it's going to have a nice, good, dark spookiness. Like, there is metaphors in Pirates originally for, like, the town burning to the ground. The town is on fire. There's, like, I think someone hanging at some point, or, like, allusions to. This one has similar themes of, like, it's not too spooky, but it's getting close.
If you watched it at like 4 or 5, this movie would terrify you, basically.
If you were 4 or 5 and you rode the Haunted Mansion ride, you could easily be spooked. Yes.
Okay. Well, okay, so I think I have a little question in regards to this then. Is it anything like, and I can only really think of like 2 dark rides I've ever been on.
I was gonna say, you are at a disadvantage since you were so motion sick.
Yeah, well, I was. Is it anything like that one in Silver Dollar City?
Yes and no.
Okay.
So the one in Silver Dollar City, you know, bless it, it's at this point run down as all get out.
Oh, it wasn't working at all when we went on it.
No, but they refused to kill it because it is their star attraction. One of these days they're going to fix it, and it's going to relive the 90s glory days that we all remember it for. So, yes and no. The reason why there is this cult following to... Because when I was doing research for this, part of the reason I picked this one is because I would argue this is the flop out of Disney's attempts at a movie based solely off of a ride. They've done Pirates of the Caribbean. That succeeded like nobody's business.
Okay.
And they did this one. It didn't do great.
Wasn't there like a Journey to Space Mountain with a rock that came out in like 2010 or something?
Probably. That one's also going to go in the it did not work bucket. But then recently Jungle Cruise got a movie, which was pretty good.
I haven't seen it.
It was funny. It was cute. It was better than this.
Okay.
And so there is a cult following to the ride. And not just like a little one, but like a hardcore, like there are people who live for this ride. There is merchandise for just this ride. People do like Christmas trees in the merchandise of this ride. People love this ride. And online people kept saying like, "Oh, this is a cult classic movie." And I would argue it's not.
Right, this is the one where people actually spread out, like aren't supposed to, but do bring people's ashes into, right?
Yeah, the really popular one is Splash Mountain. Partially because they're changing Splash Mountain. It's gonna stop being the subtly racist version of itself. And move to Princess and the Frog.
Okay, I knew nothing about this.
One of these days we will have to go over the Brer Rabbit.
The what?
There was an old movie that Disney did, and we may or may not have tarred and feathered someone in that movie.
Oh. Can we do that with Watership Down?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, because Watership Down, terribly sad. This movie, delightfully racist. It's very strange.
Okay.
It was
that's a weird phrasing, but...
Yes, but that was like that point in history of Disney where like everything was like, okay, we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, one of those where like there's some charm to the movie, but it's like, oh, there's that little bit.
And then they shot themselves in the leg. Yeah.
Yeah.
This one, thankfully, does not have any of that, which is very good. No, this one uses engineering in like a really clever way.
Okay.
So like to get on the ride, you have to go through what appears to be a room that gets taller as you stand still in it. Part of that was because the original ride had to figure out how to get around some train tracks because, you know, Disneyland has a train running around it.
Okay.
Had to get under the train. So they made an elevator that runs so slowly and smoothly, it makes it appear like the room is getting taller.
Interesting.
It's dope. They use some really cool special effects throughout the whole ride, so there is puppetry. There's a lot of things that once we get into the movie, the whole reason it's in that movie is because it's in the ride. There's lines that are like that. There's characters. There's unfortunately the stupid singing heads, which are charming and hilarious and really cool in the ride. Because in the ride, they're real model heads with CGI projected on top of them. I guess CGI is not the right word, but like it's a projection on top and they look very realistic.
Okay.
There's a really cool use of Pepper's ghost, which is a stage trick to make it look like there's actually ghosts on stage.
Oh, kind of like The Illusionist.
Very much so. And like, so there's a lot of like cool technology that is put into it along with it being both spooky and funny at the same time. And it's not like, oh, it's a little spooky, but it's mostly, no, it's like a strong divide down the middle of like spooky and funny.
Yeah, because that's one thing one of the commentators said in the special features was that they tried shoving as much as they could from the movie into, the ride into the movie.
They did. And like, as a fanatic fan of the ride, I would say it didn't work. And we'll go into more why. Yeah,
we'll get into that. So back to the cast. As for Thomason, we have actually covered in a movie previously.
Yes.
She was Victoria the chambermaid and Nicole in Black Knight. But other than that, I don't really know what she was in too much.
Again, she was in funny movies that I didn't watch.
A lot of British TV shows.
Yeah.
I forget that she's British because I've only seen her with an American accent for the most part.
True.
As for Stamp, he's been in so much at this point, including Star Wars Episode 1, Superman, and Bowfinger, which also starred Eddie Murphy.
Of course. At this point, just take your pick.
Yep. As for Parker, dude's been in a lot of stuff, but I mainly know him as Martin Tanley from Beverly Hills Ninja.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Same.
Other than that, I don't think I've seen anything else that he's been in even after this.
Yeah. Again, a lot of this crowd it's that era of like movies that I just didn't watch.
Yeah, I mean it's that weird era where like we were sticking around with a lot. I think probably what it was, and I might be wrong on this. So 2003, when this movie would have came out along with Men in Black.
Yeah.
So I was back in the States at this point. So
I think this was just a weird era for movies in general.
Well, and also I think because home media was becoming so popular and going to the theaters is still expensive, but was expensive especially for like larger families.
Yes.
And you could buy a movie and then rewatch it over and over again on home media. We were watching a lot of stuff from like the 90s that were cheaper to buy than it was for, or maybe not even the 90s, maybe like the 80s and stuff that was cheaper than buying something from a more modern new release.
Agreed.
Yeah. So before we get into it, my resources for this episode include commentary by producer Don Hahn, VFX supervisor Jay Reed, and screenwriter David Birnbaum, as well as a field guide to American Houses by Virginia Savage McAllister, one of my favorite reference books.
Very good.
And Doombuggy.com's Haunted Mansion website, who state that the staff used their website for research during the production.
Very cool.
Yeah, so they've got some interesting stuff on their site. A lot of it is dead because Adobe Flash isn't supported by anything anymore.
Oops.
So there's a good chunk that's dead. And I guess they had a book, which would have been nice to know of. But
yeah.
We didn't think there'd be research on this movie.
No, and if you're interested in more about the actual ride of the Haunted Mansion ride, whether that be the one at Land, World, or Tokyo, there are multiple documentaries, all usually available free online or on Disney Plus, which was my source, that talk more about the actual engineering, the inspiration, the Imagineers. Again, like I said, there is endless amounts on just the ride.
Yeah.
And then they try to make a movie.
Yeah, see, I do go into rides every now and then for, like, the
This
history
is one
stuff.
of the ones you could ride.
Well, not, like, actually ride. I'm talking about, like, the history and videos of it.
Yes.
There's a YouTube channel I like called Defunct Land that talks about
This
the failed
one-
attempts and the history of that stuff.
There's some very interesting history, because this is one of the few rides that has, like, really evolved over the decades, too. They keep adding new stuff, they keep renovating it. It gets turned into Nightmare Before Christmas every Christmas.
Oh, cool.
It's very cool.
Interesting. Well, I won't look into it after this episode.
No, now you know, like, we are the two extremes who watched this movie. There was people who never ridden the ride, didn't know about its weird cult following, and then there was people like me who lived for this ride. And both of us were disappointed at the movie attempt.
Yeah, in multiple regards.
Yeah.
And so, before we dive into it, Chris, what are we drinking?
Good old plain water today.
I'm drinking caffeinated flavored apple water.
Ooh, fancy.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Yeah, tap here's not that great.
I'm spoiled, though. My tap is fancy.
I know yours is. But the Haunted Mansion. So, we start with opening credits of random floating objects in a party with the phrase, "Welcome, foolish mortals."
Which is the opening line that you hear at the ride.
Yes, which I'm aware of because I did get some stuff explained to me through the commentary.
Yes.
But it also serves as a prologue, as a story of death, which it gives us... It doesn't really give us a history, but it kind of gives us a background of the mansion and why it's cursed. Also showing, like, a full-on hanging is a bit dark for a Disney movie.
Yeah, but again, the ride's a bit dark for Disney.
I know, it's just... Because I didn't see this movie until we decided to review it.
Yes.
And that happens, and I'm like, wait, what? And I had to reverse it just to be like, did I see that right in a Disney movie?
Yes, you did.
And it's not like, it's not done in, like, Tarzan, where, like, he hangs, the bad guy hangs.
But, like, we snap away.
Exactly. And you let your mind do it. No, this dude is straight up hanging
Yes.
from the neck.
Fun fact, this is the first movie that had some very questionable bits that showed up on the Disney Channel, because this guy hangs.
Oh, this was on Disney Channel? Holy shit.
And it still runs every Halloween. It had a break because it flopped terribly. But, like, like, even when this first released, they released it in theaters, and then they released it on Disney Channel. And so, not only does the guy hang within, like, the first 5 minutes of this movie, but Eddie Murphy says damn a lot in this film. And that was the first one to hit Disney Channel that wasn't, like, the most PG thing you've ever seen.
Okay.
That
is interesting.
They were trying to be a little bit edgy with this one.
Yeah, I don't think Disney ever promoted Watcher in the Woods, or what was it, the Dragon Slayer one we watched?
Oh god, the Dragon Slayer one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no. But again, Disney doesn't qualify this as a horror. They thought they were aiming at, like, teens.
Yeah. Or, I don't even think they were aiming at teens. I think that this movie was aimed at even younger than teens, to be honest, like preteen maybe.
A lot of the director's, like, notes that I could find on, like, who this movie was for was like, it's for preteens, but the jokes are not for preteens at all.
Oh god.
But the slapstick humor is for, like, elementary school kids. So, like, yeah, sure, preteen. Just, middle it out.
Yeah. It'll work.
Yeah.
Or they tried.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so while they never state the events that take place, with the house being a bit of... So, from what I read on the architecture of it from Doom Buggy, is that it was designed in a Second Empire style, but for me, it doesn't fully fit it cleanly into that style. And also, it's definitely early it's early revivals because it's Second Empire, but it also has elements of like the Greek revival and the Gothic element. So it gives it a little bit of a ambiguity to its style and its setting, but even despite that, also along with the attire, which they did borrow from Italy.
Yes.
Specifically that tri-point hat. We can guess this movie's somewhere in the early to mid 1800s, at least the prologue set for that.
Yes. So there's a reason why the house looks a little goofy.
Okay.
The house is based off of both Disneyland's and Disney World's interpretations of the home.
Oh, okay.
So Disneyland's version of the home is set very much more in traditional New Orleans Renaissance style, whereas Disneyland's has a lot more Dutch colonial revival influences to it. And they mashed the two together to get the base of the house, and then they CGI'd on this chimney. And that's why it looks a little goofy.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense because they're like the main form of it is very much the Second Empire. You have the mansard roof, you have the little cupola, but the cupola is not mansard like it normally would be, and it's got the dome.
Yeah, that's why.
Yeah, and then the front of the house is very much the Greek columns with the what's the name of the triangle bit of I'm going to disappoint every history professor I've had. I can't remember the little triangle bit that sits on top of the columns.
Yes. Yeah, that's why. Please note that when this movie came out, there was no Tokyo Disney, so that ride, it has not influenced this at all. It was just Land and World.
What is Tokyo Disney's one like?
The much more technology advanced version of it. And then there is kind of two others. There's one in Hong Kong and one in Paris, but for cultural sensitivity reasons, it's not a haunted mansion. It's more like a fun magical ride. Like the Hong Kong one stars a little monkey. Hong
Kong makes much more sense just because I'm sure there's some influence from the Chinese government.
Yeah, and like the Paris one, like each park is very different.
Okay.
Which is, for some people, part of the fun. For some people, frustrating because you're never going to ride the rides.
I mean...
But also, like, you know, that could be your goal.
So, little story from my childhood. I have kind of been to a Disney World.
Really?
I've been to the front gates of Disney World Paris.
That's better than I've gotten.
My aunt wanted to go, and she had this crazy schedule booked for her vacation.
Oh, one of those.
Yeah, she wanted to go to like 5 countries in a week and a half or something.
Ooh.
Or 2 weeks, something like that. So we get to Paris and she's like, yeah, let's go to Disney right now. We'll go there, we'll hit up a couple rides, we'll be there a couple hours, and then we'll get back. Grant, this is the early 2000s, by the way.
Yeah, and also, out of all the Disneys, that's probably the best one to try that at.
Well, so we drive out there, we go through traffic, after work traffic, and we get to the gates and they're like, oh yeah, our summer hours haven't started.
Aw, bummer.
So it's like, yeah, we're open for like an hour.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you guys want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so, you got to look at it.
We got to look at the gates. But to keep the movie spooky, the clock strikes 13 to mimic, and I know this is also to mimic the ride.
It is.
So I have a little bit of knowledge, but not a lot.
Well, that's okay, because honestly, the amount of knowledge you need for this movie is not a lot.
No. Well, it helps to know a little bit about, I would say it helps to know a little bit about the ride for expectations.
A little bit, but also there's a lot of bits about the ride that are like iconic for those of us who really love the ride that are not in this movie whatsoever.
Okay.
Or dumbed down so far that you hate them. We'll get to them.
Okay. Well, we get the setup of the curse. Some dude killed himself because girl killed himself, Romeo and Juliet. Kind of bullshit.
Yeah, you know, hopeless romantic.
Yeah. And then now we cut to modern times where the mansion's a bit run down and there's a kid who's scared off by the gate for some reason.
It's spooky.
And also there's just a ton of flyers for Evers and Evers Real Estate.
Yeah, like, an obnoxious amount of flyers.
Yeah, it's not like it was taped to their gate or anything. There is, like, someone intentionally went to this middle of nowhere mansion.
And, like, dumped them in the air.
It is such a weird, like, tie, like, because from there it goes right into transitioning into Jim Evers, who's portrayed by Eddie Murphy, showing a house to some picky buyers. Yeah,
which... Don't get me wrong, the only reason I ever watched HGTV was for the drama. I did not like any of the design stylings that are on, but I am here to watch couples almost kill each other over a home with not enough electricity.
Oh, I
so
mean,
like if the whole movie had been like the realty side of this, I think I would have enjoyed it. Because these two couples look like they're about ready to get a divorce over him being too picky.
yeah. Well, it's also a reflection of what's going to happen with Eddie Murphy and his family.
True.
So it's used as like kind of a setting point of like kind of how Laugh and I were talking about the Before trilogy is the intro is these two young lovers, and we see kind of two futures that they could become in the beginning of the movie.
I do like a little bit of foretelling.
Yeah.
This one's a little direct, but yeah, that's fine.
It's fine.
At least this part's funny.
But it's also not direct at the same time. It's just kind of like...
Well, okay, it's not direct unless you already know Disney and the early 2000s, because there's only 3 possibilities for this movie. Is Eddie Murphy going to be A, the deadbeat dad who's never in his children's life? B, the workaholic dad who's never in his children's life? Or C, useless?
We're coming,
or dead.
We're coming heavily off the latchkey children era.
Yeah, we are.
But there are some stuff I like. Like, I do kind of like... I like that it shows that he's a very sneaky dude. He's always trying to get the sale because, like, his wife calls and he's pretending like it's another...
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I like that they gave him a better reason than just, like, random fill-in job here, like random business. Like, at least this feels a little bit more like realistic.
Yeah,
because he has like an actual like pinpointable job.
Yeah, it's not like someone got lost on the middle of the road and ended up in the creepy mansion.
Exactly.
So
I appreciate that.
Yeah, it's a nice approach. I also do somewhat like the be happy for evers and evers.
Stupid, but yes.
Yeah, it works. It sets up the cheesy real estate position.
Yes, and it also ties back into like the really dumb commercials of the early 2000s. Like that would have been someone's actual tagline.
Oh god, the general commercials.
Yes. I
absolutely hate that I've learned that they ripped off Network.
Yes.
So bad.
Yeah.
So bad. But Jim, oh, by the way, the wife, Sarah Evers, is portrayed by Marsha Thomason. But Jim goes to deliver the papers to the sellers who really want to celebrate, which also, what is the celebration song they sing?
I have no idea. The other question I have is, why are we signing all these papers in a restaurant?
Yeah, at a tiki bar on top of that. At a tiki
bar, like,
not even like a light tiki bar. Like, this thing is so heavy tiki that it's kind of obnoxious.
Who picked this restaurant, first of all?
They did.
Yeah, also, what
because they have the best happy hours, remember?
Oh, that's right. But, like, the other question I have is, like...
Bloody Marys. We could have had Bloody Marys.
We could have, but I don't really care for them.
Okay.
They're just okay.
Well, I'm just trying to tie into the movie instead of apple sparkling water.
You know what? I like to think of it as swamp water.
There's a lot of that.
Yeah.
Anywho, you were saying.
Well, it just... Like, I get that we're trying to set up, like, oh, Eddie Murphy's too consumed in his business and he's not really paying attention to his wife and kids, especially his wife. But, like, this just feels like, instead of, like, oh, he's a workaholic, it feels more like he's a liar and, like, can't take the time to, like, call his wife and be like, hey, work's running late.
Well, it's not even that, because instead of, like, it running late, like, he is trying to get away, and then on his way out, some random people who are hella nosy, who...
Yeah.
They just say, did we just hear you sold their house?
Yeah, and, like, has Eddie Murphy never heard of a business card? Like, just hand them a business card with your number on and be like, yeah, I'm so excited to talk to you in the morning.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I get, like, we're trying to set up, like, oh, he's not attentive, but, like, it just kind of seems like he's an ass.
Well, and, I mean, even me, for someone who is a workaholic, I mean, it is... I don't know, there's not... I think it's how you set up boundaries, because one, work does keep me busy.
Sure.
But I keep myself busy outside of work doing all my other side projects and hobbies.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, I think it's just all about, like, setting up boards, which, to him, I think the reason why he comes across as an unlikable workaholic is because his work is the only thing he's doing. Like, he only has work in his family. That's all we get in this movie.
Yeah.
We don't even know if he has a hobby besides... real estate.
That's true.
Scratch that. Sports Illustrated. Red Hot edition.
That's true.
That's a hobby.
Yeah, that counts as a hobby.
Sure. But yeah, it's a stupid way of showing it. Because they could have gone from here to him being late.
Yeah.
Of like, or even him staying for a drink. Because that's the thing. He
manages to get away.
Yeah, he gets away from the first couple in a real asshole manner.
Yeah, and then isn't a dick to the next group.
Yeah.
Like yes, this is why I say it comes off as him just being like a liar.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, it feels like everyone he talks to, he's like not being truthful to some extent.
Yeah, it's like he's made the sale with the first person, he's done with them and moved on to the next one.
Exactly,
kind of thing.
yeah.
Yeah. But he returns home with a teddy bear and a fancy watch as damage control, which...
Yeah, I hate that's...
well, so here's the thing. So this also implies that either the watch was already a gift, or he stopped somewhere on the way home to buy a watch and a teddy bear.
Which I would argue, unless that's a Walmart watch, are not sold at the same store.
You know it's not. He stopped somewhere at a mall. It's the early 2000s.
True, okay.
He went to a jewelry store and Build-A-Bear.
Yeah. Just go home.
Exactly. It's one thing after another, which, I mean, I get it. In a story, you don't think about the stupid, pedantic bullshit that happens between point A and point B.
True.
But sometimes you have to, because this movie is one of those ones where you have to, because it's all over the goddamn place.
It really is.
Because, like, obviously the wife's pissed. She says...
But she's not that pissed.
It's okay, I forgive Teddy.
Yeah, like, she's mad. She's not that mad, despite him having done this before.
Yeah, because she goes off on... She doesn't even go off on him. She's like, oh yeah, and you missed the baseball game. You just missed X, Y, and Z, birthday parties, and other crap. Yeah,
this just feels like we both need to go see a therapist. Or like a counselor. Not, hey, let's take a full weekend off. Just you, me, and the kids.
We'll go to the lake. Yeah, it's a rush decision to even... Because it's
this is why our generation all grew up and went, no, that is not the answer. We've seen Haunted Mansion. We know how this ends, and it doesn't end well.
2003. I would have seen Alien at this point.
Again, we know how it ends.
Yeah, Alien, the dark house in space.
Yeah.
It's a stupid moment because right after this, like, we don't even have time for them to talk outside of, let's go to the lake. It's like, well, now we gotta introduce the kids because the son's went because he's scared of a moth, which...
A spider.
Was it a spider? I thought it was a moth.
It is a spider.
But he compares it to Mothra.
Yes, he does, because Mothra's terrifying. Check out our episode on Mothra.
Oh yeah, we did do a micro view or a short at the time on
I love Mothra.
The Mothra reboot is what we did.
Hell yeah, Mothra.
We'll have to go back and redo those series just because there's
Beanie Baby Mothra. That's my favorite.
That's the main one I have.
Yeah. Yeah, no, he's scared of a spider, and I know that because it ties back in later when he has to save his family.
Oh, okay. I didn't write it down as... Oh, no, it is a spider. I do have it written in my notes. Whack your own spiders. Facing spiders is a bad metaphor. I got caught up on the whole Mothra a bit.
It's okay.
But also, I don't know. Were you one of those people that put a poster on the front of your door?
Okay, so I had a poster on both sides of my door.
Okay.
I had a piece of artwork for probably 15 years that I had drawn in the back of a friend's car on the way to the lake that I thought was super good. Looking back, it was just Lisa Frank's tiger because I only had like highlighters and like a gel pen. So I had that taped to my door for a very long time until Sibling Rivalry tore that down. And then on the back, I did not buy myself movie posters as a kid. And no one bought me movie posters as a kid. So they just were the ones that came free with, like, the CD music. Oh. So I had Marley and Me on the back of my door, even though I hated that movie.
See, I never hung up posters as a kid, so,
I had 3 posters, and only one of them I bought myself.
Okay.
And that was Aragorn.
I bought a Lord of the Rings one, and I didn't even hang it up. I just had it.
I had, like, the only place I could hang it up because I didn't have enough wall space was inside my closet door.
Yeah. Well, I mean, okay, so here's the reason I'm even asking about this, is because her poster is so awkward compared to the rest of the hallway.
Okay, her poster is so awkward, but both of these children were written by people who have not been with or near children in a long-ass time.
No.
Because her poster is weird. You're right. And then in the little boy's room, he has a big-ass poster of Houdini.
I mean...
Which, okay, as an adult, I think is dope. As an 8-year-old child, I don't know who the fuck Houdini is other than, like, a figment of, like, pop culture, like, myth.
Yeah, so here's the thing. So, the stuff that the kid's room is full of,
It's not realistic children's stuff.
No, if it is, that's exactly it, because I think it was the producer brought up that, oh yeah, we thought this would be cool to have in a kid's room, and that's exactly...
And, like, no child is into any of this.
No, and even if a kid is into magic, they're not into, like, Houdini. They're more into, like, Chris Angel or whoever the new guy is.
I'm sure there's a new version of Chris Angel, yeah.
Yeah, or what was the other one?
Or even just, like, if you're, like, a nerdy kid like my husband was and you were into magic, you had, like, a physical book that you kept on the ground next to some playing cards and you'd, like, pretend to teach yourself card tricks. You didn't have Houdini on your wall because that's too cool and too nerdy at the same time.
I had a microscope set.
Yeah, hell yeah, you did.
Yeah,
it's okay. It's okay. I definitely had a telescope.
Well, and even then, like, I didn't even put up, like, Pokemon posters or anything like that.
I had sticky stars on my ceiling.
Nope.
And, like, obnoxious amount of sticky stars on my ceiling. And I'd hung them from little strings, too.
That's actually kind of cool.
That was the coolest I got.
Yeah.
The rest of my wall, I didn't have wall space as a kid, because I had furniture. And children's rooms are tiny.
Yeah.
I had enough room for my headboard, my bookcase, and my obnoxious amount of books.
So I shared a room with my brother up until, like, my sophomore year of high school.
So you have half the amount of wall.
No, not even then. Like, because we didn't hang stuff. That's the thing, is we didn't. Well, and on top of that, like, we had a lot of, like, European style furniture. So, like, we had shrunks and we had stuff up against the wall. So yeah, okay.
like, and all kids' rooms are like that. There's always shit shoved against the walls because floor space is valuable. Even if you're not European styling and, like, having a wardrobe, you've got your crap piled up. You've got your toy thing that hangs on the corner with all of your stuffed animals shoved up in the corner.
Our toys were in the basement.
It's scary, but okay.
Well, I guess. I don't know. We just had Legos and Kinects and shit, so.
Demon toys. Yeah, you gotta put those in the basement.
But the father grabs, Sports Illustrated Red Hot Edition, which I kind of forgot was a thing.
Yeah, me too. Not gonna lie. Totally forgot about that.
Yeah, it brought up college memories of getting drunk and drawing something from it at a party. They made a drinking game out of it, of drinking every time I changed my pen.
Very nice.
Yeah, it was a good time. But the sister comes in, and we get introduced to her so quickly. She comes in and kills a spider.
She has, like... I know she's supposed to be, like, the tough, like, no-nonsense kid, but, like, honestly, she doesn't have a whole lot of personality.
No.
Neither of the kids really do.
No, they really don't. They're just kind of there to be like, well, they're a family.
Yeah.
And the father's like, you have to whack your own spiders. It's just a stupid metaphor of dealing with your own issues.
It is. And also, like, he doesn't really, like, give any useful hints. Like, again, this guy is terrible.
Yeah.
About, like, helping his family in any way. Because he just is like, yeah, you just roll up this little short piece of paper and you just go whack the spider. Instead of, like, hey, maybe get the vacuum and get the long suction stick out.
Yeah.
Or, like, get a broom, stab it from a distance. No help.
Yeah. No, they're I don't know.
Eddie Murphy's character is sad, and the children are empty shells.
Well, and even then, Eddie Murphy's character is like, his growth is
minimal.
Yeah, loving his family, basically, or putting his family first is, like, the growth arc for him.
We'll talk more about his growth arc towards the end, because I have some thoughts about his growth.
Yeah, same. But the son is Michael, who's portrayed by Mark John Jeffries. And the daughter is Megan, who's portrayed by Ari Davis.
Yep.
Who I haven't seen them in really anything since then.
Yep, same.
Yeah. But downstairs, Mrs. Evers is taking a mysterious call. Only wanting her to come see a building. But she insists they go as a pair.
Yeah, I'm confused why they are calling her, because from all I can tell, she is a stay-at-home mom.
Well, no, she's probably not a stay-at-home mom, because we do see her on the road business-wise.
Yeah.
But here's the thing.
Sure.
So, one, I do like that the buyer says, or the caller says the buyer's ready to move, or the seller's ready to move on.
Oh,
spooky.
Yeah, like, there's bits in this that are good.
Yeah.
It's just, you have to get around the main family.
Yeah. Well, and so here's the thing. So I love how she says this, but just a couple scenes before, Jim was doing his own thing, and so was she.
Yeah.
They weren't working as a couple.
No. And they are not going to start now.
No. I mean, I get it to, like, I get why it brings them to the mansion together.
But, like, also I would have been okay with some Scooby-Doo shit.
Yeah.
I would have been okay with, like, us finding the mansion on accident.
Yeah, a little bit. Or just be like, hey, we're looking to sell.
Or, hey, I heard you want a getaway. How about Airbnb at the mansion?
Or they go to some resort and the mansion's there.
Yeah, like, I feel like we could have wormed our way to the mansion a little differently, but sure, why not?
Yeah. But, oh no, this puts the family adventure in jeopardy because Jim's super going into it because the mansion's it's a rich area.
It's a mansion. I'd hope so.
Yeah.
But also, like...
It's in the middle of goddamn nowhere from what we've seen.
And also, like, as we know as architects, most of these, like, really big-ass mansions, there's a very small, small portion of them that are actually in rich places.
Yeah.
Especially this old, this decrepit. Like,
this big of a building, too.
This big, this much land, and it's not taken care of. Like, the gate isn't taken care of at all. And you're telling me this isn't a desirable, like, a high traffic, high buyer area? I call bullshit.
Yeah.
I call total bullshit.
Yeah.
This is on the edge of town next to, like, a factory.
Yeah, or it's out there, but where it's at now used to be way away from everything.
Yeah, and now it's in the middle of the suburbia.
Yeah.
And, like, its neighbors don't look like it.
Exactly. I've experienced this firsthand recently, too. But it's on to the mansion as the family's just stopping by to introduce themselves before going on their vacation.
See, okay, that's this whole family's problem.
Yeah.
They keep doing this, like, it'll just be real quick, and it's never just real quick.
Well, here's the thing. Is Jim's family... I think Jim is actively trying to avoid his family.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah.
I 100% agree.
Also, the call was never finished.
No.
We just cut from like, oh, we could get rich off of this, to boom, they're on the road.
They are just heading that way.
Yeah. And, I mean, we get there and it seems closed, but the gate magically opens.
Fun fact, this is our first hidden Mickey. Something
Yep.
that was from the ride.
And from just Disney World in general, from what I know of.
Yes, that is one of the key features across all of the Disney parks, is the abundance of hidden Mickeys. For some people, an annoyance. For others, a delight.
I think they're also in Kingdom Hearts, too.
That was part of it, yeah.
Yeah.
Disney likes its hidden Mickeys. Again, some people like them, some people hate them. It depends on who you are.
I'm indifferent.
I think they're kind of fun, because I've seen some real funky ones.
It's Disney.
It's Disney.
Yeah, and specifically this Mickey is the lock.
Yeah, please note that, like, again, as someone who likes the parks and likes the stupid amount of detail that Disney puts into its parks, normally hidden Mickeys range from, like, this level of stupidly easy to find to, like, you have to stand at a certain angle and look a certain direction to see the silhouette of Mickey against rocks bullshit. All 5 hidden Mickeys in this movie, very easy to find. Don't worry.
If you find a mouse on it, or if you find a real life mouse, that's the super hidden Mickey.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it also, because the gate opens for them, how does it open if it was just locked a moment ago?
Ghosts.
Even then, it just seems stupid.
Yes, but I will give the movie that, like, this level of stupid spooky does reflect the ride nicely.
Okay. Well, we get up on the identity crisis mansion.
Fact.
It's very creepy.
It is. It's good.
And there is I won't even call this a cemetery. There is just graves upon graves right off to the side of this peaceful looking area. And it's overgrown and super haunted looking. Also, it's kind of dark and doesn't fit that, hey, it's sunny where they're at.
Yes. However, this is where we start to, like, get into the ride properly. Because the, like, queue for the ride is through a fake graveyard.
Okay.
Especially recently. They not super recently, but that was one of the updates they did, was like the queue is now an interactive experience, and as you go through it, you can solve a murder mystery, and like a lot of the tombstones have funny quirks about the Imagineers who worked on the ride.
Okay, that's honestly, saying that, I think that's a good idea, because from what I've heard about Disney, the lines are the worst thing, but if you make it interactive,
Yes,
it's a little something more.
it is better. Granted, ever since COVID, the line got all fucked up, so hopefully that gets fixed, but we'll see.
Okay. Well, that makes much more sense now why this is already there. But
Why there's a graveyard surrounding this house?
Yes.
Yes, that's why.
One, I do think it's cool. Two, I'm very jealous of my buddy Rick in North Carolina. His apartment overlooks a cemetery.
Oh, that would be fun.
An old cemetery where he told me that they wanted to put up graves for everyone, and then they started doing ground penetration stuff, and they're like, there's too many bodies here.
Whoops.
Yeah, so they just kind of abandoned that idea.
I love it.
But I do like that Jim is all about flipping and twisting it of like, oh, this could be a selling point. Nowadays, it very much so is for people like us.
Yes,
But in
like,
2003...
I would even argue the modern market, it's still not a selling point. There is a very select group who want a cemetery in their home.
Me.
Yeah, me. But
Yeah.
again, the majority, especially mansion buying people, I would say do not. It limits greatly what you're allowed to do on those grounds.
Hey, I thought it would be cool, like, in retirement, to be a groundskeeper for a cemetery.
It would be cool, but that's a lot of weed eating.
Yeah.
I don't like weed eating that much.
I'm cool with it.
See,
I like yard work.
Brian would love owning a cemetery. He could just weed eat all day.
Oh, the joys of getting old and doing
It's
old
his
piercing
favorite
shit.
thing is to mow.
I know it is. He's so proud of his mowing. Hey, it's the simple things in life sometimes.
It's his new hobby.
Yes. But it begins to rain, and they're sitting outside the mansion for like a good solid 2 minutes.
They're out there a while.
Yeah, which also the first little bit of real adult humor of look at the size of those knockers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which the knockers are from Young Frankenstein.
Yes, they are.
But they get in, they're like, oh, the house is all nice looking. Or like, oh, this is all fancy. But the humor in this part is just so bad.
Yes.
Like,
I totally agree.
everything is such a one-liner. And like, oh, what's that smell? It smells worse than grandma.
Yeah.
Like,
Which, it kind of distracts from the effort that was put into the set. Because the set's actually a really nice, like, nod to the ride. And it's a well done, like, old Victorian style home.
Yep, that's what I was gonna say, not about the ride, because I know nothing about it. But yes, no, this whole set, like, everything feels good.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like Clue. The house kind of feels like a fake house. There's rooms that don't make sense,
but that's the point of Clue. It's to misguide and misdirect.
And it's like, oh, it's similar to the board game layout. This one feels like a proper mansion.
Yeah. Well, I think I read something along the lines that one of the housing design, or one of the people who designs the rides, was someone inspired by the Winchester house.
Yes, and that would have been Disney.
Okay. So that's right. That's where Disney got the inspiration for the ride, was the Winchester house.
Because it was originally going to be much more like a standard spooky haunted mansion. And he went and saw the Winchester tour and realized that, like, oh, it can be spooky but also classy.
Okay.
Because that was his big worry, was like, oh, I don't want to run down empty abandoned home on my nice new park. Because, again, at this time, theme parks were fairly new, especially to America.
Yeah.
It didn't want to have, like, abandoned home.
Yeah, you had, like, Kansas had something in their electric lights district.
Yeah.
And because that's where Disney got his inspiration wanting to do something like that when he was a kid. He's from he's a Midwest kid.
We are all very aware.
Yeah. But okay, that makes a little bit more sense of
why it's Victorian-esque.
Yeah, and
yes.
Just the setting of it, because yeah, it's a hodgepodge of a house.
It is very much a hodgepodge house.
Yeah. But this is where we're also introduced to the butler Ramsley, who's portrayed by Terrence Stamp.
I have mixed feelings about this portrayal.
He's an ass.
He is an ass. I kind of like the over-the-top goofy ghost voice, but it's also annoying. I flip every time I see this movie whether or not I like it. Because he sucks the whole time like this.
Yeah, he's not really like he feels like an old-timey butler, but, like, not a good one, you know?
Yeah, it feels too much caricature.
Yes.
Like, there are a couple lines that get close to being
Mhm.
the right level of, like, wispy vibrato.
Here's what it is, and I'm glad you brought up Clue, because it's very much the opposite of Clue, where this movie could have been campy and could have been fun like that, but it tries to take itself too seriously, where Clue plays heavily into, oh, I'm Colonel Mustard.
Yeah, we should have gone farther.
Yeah, exactly.
We could have gone more.
Exactly, and that's why it doesn't, because when it does go further, it feels weird and out of place, because this movie's set up to be realistic and actually kind of spoopy.
Yes.
But we're told that, oh, she was supposed to come alone. Why are you guys here? But you're invited to dinner to discuss this. Which this is why I hate the setup for this movie too. And because Jim's immediately like, well, we can't because we can only we can't stay more than 5 minutes. Why even go?
Yeah, why even go?
Yeah, it just feels like they went out of the way. Well, we know it's because he's a workaholic and he has to get, like, the potential next client in.
But, like, also, it was partially his idea to go to this stupid house, and he only wants to spend 5 minutes here.
Yeah.
Like, that's not how you make a client. They
just
just invited you to dinner.
Which, they've spent, like, 30 minutes already getting up to the house, looking at the graveyard, getting
Ask
in.
for a tour of the house first, at least.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no, like again, it all feels very much like the main character just is a lying liar.
What it is it feels very much so like, oh, well, we were just in the neighborhood. We thought we'd pop in for like 5 minutes or so.
Find out they've driven 2 hours to come see you.
Exactly. It's one of those where it's like, your motives are a bit suspicious, which they should be.
Yes, yes.
Well, actually, no, they shouldn't be because they were invited there to potentially sell the house.
Yeah, again, I like the background part of this movie so far. I don't really understand the main character.
At all.
At all.
Yeah. Because they're invited to dinner, introduced to Master Gracie, who is portrayed by Nathaniel Parker.
I think he does a fantastic job.
Oh, yeah, I like him in this movie.
He's charming, but also, like, a hint creepy the whole time. I like it.
Yeah, he is just a, set at 1800s, oh shit, what's his name? I just said his name earlier. Tanley.
Yes.
From, Beverly Hills Ninja.
Yeah.
And with not an English accent.
Yeah, like, he's charming, spooky, and also, like, the whole time he speaks, from the get-go, I like that he feels like, oh, there's something goofy going on here.
Yeah. Well, I think part of it, too, is because at this point, the movie's so heavily focused on Sarah.
True.
Yeah.
True.
But now the entire family's stuck because now the road has flooded in a shittier version of Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island. Yes. Which
I don't hate. It's campy, and I kind of wish we'd gone farther into it.
But here's the thing. So, hear me out.
Okay.
From what I could tell, it looks like they kind of drove up a hill to get here.
Yes.
So they're on the high ground.
Yes.
How the hell does the high ground overflood?
I like to think that to get out, you go down their driveway, which is long. Then there's the gate. Then there's the main road, which has one of those signs next to it that says impassable during high water.
Oh.
And that's the part that flooded.
Okay. I'll take it. I don't know. It's just
it is stupid. It is stupid, but like again, kind of like how Clue leaned into the whole like dark and stormy night thing. I kind of wish this had leaned in a little farther.
Exactly.
Like we could have had so much fun with lightning and thunder.
I think that's exactly what we're talking about from the get-go. Is like this movie doesn't lean heavily in one way or another. It's just kind of this weird in between ground.
Yeah.
Also, one tech thing that I think is kind of cool. They had catch basins all over the sets. So that way, and hoses attached, so that way they can make it rain and thunder and lightning wherever they wanted to.
Which does look nice.
Yeah.
Like, this movie looks good.
The atmosphere is cool. It's just ruined by everything else in this movie.
Yeah. Mostly Eddie Murphy.
Now they're shown to their rooms. Oh yeah, they've had dinner. They don't even really eat dinner. They're at dinner for like 5 seconds, and then they're shown to their rooms.
Yeah. I don't mind.
Yeah, it pushes Jim away from like constantly talking about the architecture and oh well, how much could we sell this for? Let's use bathrooms. Bathrooms are a good selling point. Let's ignore the cemetery.
Yeah, like, don't get me wrong, I would be all down for a full tour of this home, but it doesn't really for a good movie make.
No, not at all. And it kind of ruins parts of the movie too, because you don't know where the hell you're at this entire time.
Yes, that's true.
Because everyone's shown to the room, which everyone in this movie seems done with Jim's shit.
Yeah, especially the children.
Yes.
This is their only personality trait.
Yeah. Well, and here's the thing. I think part of it is because the comedy of this movie is just Jim constantly cracking joke after joke after joke and one-liner, and no one's really responding to any of it.
No one else finds it funny, which is, for me, like killer of this kind of humor, is if nobody else in the movie itself finds any of it funny, then neither do I.
Yeah. Because on top of that, like, right after they're shown to their rooms, there's a couple spat, and they're now separated.
Yes.
Which Jim is then called to the library to meet with Mr. Gracie, which we get a scene of him being put into his place by, whatever the, Ramsley.
Yes.
But also, I mean, it just puts the conflict between him and Ramsley, which there's not really much to it. It's just like this one moment, and then that's like the end of it.
Yeah, I don't really care.
Yeah, because Jim's kind of a dick to his client the whole time, too.
Jim is just a dick to everybody.
Yeah. Which, also another side set piece, the couch in the library is from 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
A delightful movie.
Have not seen it, but I vaguely remember the tentacle parts when I was a kid.
Again.
Vaguely.
It is due for a remake.
Yeah. Which, Jim's left alone, and it's secret tunnel time.
I do love a secret tunnel.
We all do.
Yes.
Cue
theme song.
Yeah, obligatory Avatar reference.
Yes.
Which we cut to the kids who are sniffing random decanters.
Okay. I can understand that.
I can, but why give the kids a room with like 3 decanters of booze?
Maybe the house wasn't expecting children.
No, it definitely wasn't expecting children. But still, you gotta... How many rooms do you have in a house that have decanters, then?
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. I mean, no, I have no excuse.
Yeah, there's no excuse. They were only expecting Sarah to show up.
That's true.
Yeah. But we get our first spooky stuff. A ghost ball appears.
An orb.
Yeah, which...
The orb feels very Disney Channel-esque.
Yeah, because the kids immediately start following it.
Yeah, okay, again, when I say the kids have no personality, this is what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Like, the little girl looks at the orb like it's a normal Tuesday afternoon, and then it's like Lassie, and she's like, yeah, it wants me to follow it. The orb makes no effort.
No.
So, like...
It's not like it's some ghost that appears and beckons it or something.
Or even, like,
or even Spectre, like, it's just a glowing ball that appears.
Well, and like, okay, so like the glowing round orb in the Black Cauldron has personality. It is just a orb, but it chases rats, it bounces around, it feels like a puppy.
Okay, it's kind of like Navi a little bit in Zelda, where she has a little bit of a personality.
Yeah, doesn't make any noises. I think at one point it dingles, and like, that's it.
It doesn't even say, hey, listen.
Yeah, thank God. But like, this orb doesn't have any personality. Like, it makes no movement to have personality. It just appears and then drifts through the door.
Yeah.
I would have gone for some whispering. Like some like light whispering on the breeze to like indicate that you should follow.
Little children.
Yeah, literally anything.
Yeah, some
anything.
Shit. Yeah, it's dumb as shit.
It is dumb as shit.
Yeah. Which even dumber still, Sarah peeks out the door and sees the weird ass maid and is sent to the library.
Yeah,
where
sure.
Master Gracie is waiting. It's the same library that Jim just went through.
But no Jim.
Because he's in a secret tunnel.
Secret tunnel.
Through the mansion.
I do like that this mansion has so many secret tunnels, none of them overlap.
It has one. we see 0 other secret tunnels. There is one secret tunnel in this entire movie.
That's true.
Yeah. It has less tunnels than Nothing But Trouble.
Yeah, okay, good point.
Which we have to do Nothing But Trouble at some point. That movie is mwah.
Yes.
It's so bad. But Gracie's very open. He's telling he's open to why he's trying to leave. There's been heartbreak. We get a little bit of history of the house.
I do like this part.
Yeah, it
Like,
adds
it
a
makes-
little bit.
Okay, the reason I like this part is it sets up that teeter-totter of is he bad guy or is he a good guy?
Yeah, why were they trying to just get Sarah there?
Yes. Because, again, the way he talks, his mannerisms, there's always red flags going off with him.
Mm-hmm.
And so I kind of like that we go ahead and set up more possible red flags of like, okay, now he's got her alone. He's going through this very clearly fake story where it's like, oh, my great-grandfather, not me. Definitely not me.
In the words of Dennis Reynolds from It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia, the implications.
Yes. Exactly.
In a less rapier term.
Yes, because this is Disney. Kind of. Sometimes.
Yeah.
For this movie.
Yeah, this one, because, we're about to get to a part that just kind of struck me as odd. Because we're told that Elizabeth haunts the halls.
Yes.
The children are led to an elevator, and the scaredy son is right. Elevator inspection is important.
It is very important.
Especially for this old of an elevator.
Very important.
Because Jim pops out from behind a painting somewhere else in the house. Obviously lost, which doesn't even try and go back through the way he came.
I like that he, just accepts being lost.
Mm-hmm. And he stumbles upon a breathing door where he says, I hope it's just some big-ass termites.
Which makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
But this is one of the first instances of the word ass making it onto Disney Channel.
Yes, which also leads to... Maybe you can explain this better, because this is a part where it made absolutely no sense to me, because he's led to a ringing phone in a dark room that the butler was calling for some reason.
I don't know about this one, sorry.
Okay, then it makes no sense at all, because immediately after this, there's like, he sees a mirror that turns him into a zombie, and he's scared by a random bird.
Okay, the zombie mirror one is part of the ride. There is multiple portraits, and like the very opening part of the like, after you get through the long outdoor queue, there's like the indoor portion, right? And the first you hear of the like over the speaker intro to the ride is famously spoken by Paul Frees.
Okay.
And he's, of course, the ghost host. And
I like Ghost. Actually, it makes me just think of Space Ghost Coast to Coast.
Yeah. But, like, his intro and dialogue are incredibly famous and incredibly, like, popular for the ride. Like, when they redid it, they had a voice actor come in and try and sound like him.
Okay.
And his beginning starts with a portrait that, as you're standing in queue and, like, looking up occasionally at it, the portrait changes very slowly from being a person, like an old groundskeeper, to a skeleton.
Okay.
So that's the inspiration for it. However, this is an instance where CGI was not needed. We could have done some fun makeup, and it would have looked much better.
Well, and it's done so quick, too. It's not like it's a gradual aging thing. It's just like, well, he looks down because he's scared by a bird, looks up, oh, he's a zombie.
Yeah, there's a couple of other instances in the ride where, like, lightning flashes and reveals the true portrait, but, like, that's not this either. There's not a whole lot of, like, this kind of jump scare in the ride. A lot of it is, like, anticipated or slow build.
Okay. So it's just a stupid moment to add a little bit of extra spookiness. And
yeah, you could argue that it's inspired by the ride, which I'm sure that's exactly what they did. But, like, it's a long lean from the ride.
Okay. It just doesn't fit nicely in this movie.
Not really.
Because immediately after this, the children are led to the attic where a painting of a woman that resembles their mother is.
Why not? Spooky attic, spooky painting. I don't care. Sure.
Yeah, and we're introduced to the weird maid Emma and the butler Ezra?
Sure.
I think that's his name. They appear kind of out of nowhere. Emma's portrayed by Dinah Spivey Waters, and Ezra is played by the inconceivable Wallace Shaw.
Always a delight.
Sean. But yeah, and honestly, as much as I do like him in the stuff I've normally seen him in, he is very distracting in this movie just because he feels like so out of place compared to everyone else too. Both the maids do.
And I would argue that's because these are the only two who were cast correctly.
Oh.
These two are caricatures. They are over the top. They are both, like, way into their role. They both have a lot of persona. You could argue that, like, the butler character, because of how he talks and how over the top he is, that, like, he kind of fits in as well. But, like, all of the main family don't fit. And so that's kind of why the ones that are caricatures suddenly feel weird. Because I feel like the family should have been more caricature-y to fit in with the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it's like if you took, like, back to Scooby-Doo, because we're kind of on that trajectory.
Yes, this is very
If they had made it more Scooby-Doo instead of, like...
Yeah.
Relatively serious for part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and also, like, the family is too normal.
Yeah, just a bit.
This family, like, despite my praising, like, having a realistic background to go with, they don't do anything with that.
None of the family's quirky is what it is.
Exactly. Like, they try and occasionally give the kids something quirky, like, oh, I'm into Houdini, I'm into Latin. But, like, that's not quirky, that's nerdy.
No, I'm going to get into that a little bit when we get to that, because... Yeah,
It's not truly quirky, it's just a random little bit of trivia, you know.
Here's what it is. It feels like... in magic systems, where you either have a hard magic system or you have a soft magic system.
Yes.
All the aspects of what the family is good with feels very soft magic, where it just appears out of nowhere because it's needed to advance the story, basically.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that's why I don't like certain aspects of, especially the kids.
Yes. Okay.
Because Sarah's not a bad character. She's just underutilized. She's just kind of like, she's an object that's put on a pedestal to be the focus around where everything's coming from.
True.
Yeah. But also, where do the cookies come from? Who's sending these people fresh ingredients to make the cookies?
They're ghosts. You know, DoorDash, I don't know.
But they're cookies still.
Yes.
Someone has to come there. Someone has to be let up into the mansion.
Yeah, I don't know. Amazon guy.
I don't know. It's stupid. It's just little stuff like this that doesn't make sense through the rest of the movie that just is stupid. Because then the main butler shows up because the kids are told to go hide, and he's so demanding of them of like, the kids shouldn't have been here, and of course he knows what's going on. He sees the cookie trays.
Yes.
He's a dick.
Yes, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But we cut back to Jim, who is still lost, who finds a crystal ball who finds a crystal ball of Madame Leota, who's portrayed by Jennifer Tilly, more famously known as the Bride of Chucky.
Yeah, and this is another kind of odd casting, because there is already a look and voice to Madame Leota.
Is there?
Oh, yes, she is a huge part of the ride. A massive part of the ride.
Okay.
She is a video reel head floating in a glass ball, which was originally on the table, now has been moved so that it does float above the table.
Yeah.
In a room full of musical instruments where she calls upon the spirits. It's a little odd that we diverted so hard from, like, as opposed to like, oh, well, we changed the original source material, but we took inspiration from the crystal ball. No, like, it's just they've taken the crystal ball out of the ride. But they didn't put the character in the crystal ball. They, like, put a different character in the crystal ball.
Okay.
The crystal ball is not witty. She doesn't, yeah, she talks in rhymes, but, like, she's doing a seance the entire ride. Like, you only see her once in one scene. And she's calling upon the spirits, and, like, the spirits make rapping noises or play an instrument. Oh,
okay. And the ride is where you only see her once.
Yeah, you only see her once.
Okay. So it's just something to bring into the story. And here's why I know they brought it. It's so they could add something cryptic to it to make the main character and the kids go on some type of journey instead of like going directly to point C. Which
I'm not against, but like again, we haven't been very campy with like we're edging away from campiness every time we get close to it. And we try to be straight and serious with the crystal ball, but also we portray it with someone who's not quite the right fit.
You know, the first time I saw her, it was like, wait, is that the Bride of Chucky?
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, I think she kind of grew on me a little bit.
She's definitely one of my more liked ones, but that's just because this movie is riddled with poor casting.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. I've never been on the ride, so I didn't have a comparison.
If you were one of those folks who had only ridden the ride, like, a handful of times, or even just once, and that was, like, several years ago, you would have remembered the crystal ball scene. It's kind of one of the big points of the ride. And granted, she's not a recurring character, but you could also argue that there's only one recurring character throughout the entire ride, and that's the completely and never seen, only heard ghost host. Okay. Every scene is individual.
Okay, I didn't realize. Okay, that explains why this movie's quite a bit of mashup. It kind of makes me think of like how I don't think I can ever watch the Thor movies ever again, because the guy who plays, I found out yesterday, the guy who plays Hogan, I can't remember the actual character's name because they say it like once. He's also the guy who plays Kakihara in Ichi the Killer, the dude with the slit mouth.
Yeah, it's the same problem.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. But she interrogates Jim, and again, just every little line of his is just a one-liner quip.
Which is disappointing because all of those one-liner quips probably should have been Madame Leota's.
But also at the same time, it's just like, it's dad joke after dad joke after dad joke.
He has no real dialogue.
No, he really doesn't. And, I mean, I will give this scene credit. They did a pretty decent job. I mean, it's supposed to feel organic and wasn't Ghostbusters or The Frighteners.
Which I'll give him, this is probably the most creative scene of the whole movie.
Yeah, it's very unique. But immediately after, like, interrogating him and, like, kind of giving him the hint of what to do, he's harassed by instruments until he closes the door behind him where he's reunited with the kids.
And again, the only reason they're instruments is because it was on the ride.
Yeah.
I would have preferred a little bit more explanation, because in the ride, it's based off of old seances, and that's made much clearer because you hear rapping noises, you've got a seance table, like, there's a whole bit that goes with it.
My mind just went... it full of rapping noises, but I thought of like
get some boots and get some boots.
Yeah, just some ghost like in the background spitting fire bars and
hell
shit.
Yeah.
Rapping noises. I don't even. Oh god, I can't even imagine. Now I'm kind of thinking about it of like some dude doing like scat over like a rap beat or something. That'd be weird as shit.
That'd be dope. Yeah, no, like tapping noises.
Yeah,
But like, it's expected and kind of explained in the ride, and there's just musical instruments in the movie.
Yeah, well, on top of that, like, this is the part where we're explained that everyone's dead. Ooh,
whoa!
Spooky. The dead are beyond help, or the kids are there. Like, we have to help them. And I was like, nope, we're getting the hell out of here. Which. I mean, we get talking about the curse and whatnot, but the dialogue is so chaotic and back and forth that just
you lose a lot of it.
Yeah, and it just ends up then like, oh, well, we're gonna go on this journey to save Mom now. It's like it took you guys this long to get to that.
Also, this entire time, Mom is still listening to this man ramble on about his dead wife, or his grandmother's dead. Person.
Also, this mom, they just let their kids go off with some random stranger that they've just met.
Yeah, this is a very strange family dynamic.
Not even a room nearby, just we're all going to be split up.
In a giant mansion that's probably full of dead people.
Yeah, and it's here. Okay, actually, I just thought of it. Mm-hmm. Here's the thing. Here's what would have made this movie better.
Oh, yes.
Is if it was random strangers and not a family.
Would have helped.
Exactly.
Would have helped. I also would have accepted that the Eddie Murphy character just did not exist.
Yeah.
Just completely take that character out. It's a single mom and 2 kids.
Well, and so here's the thing. So what would have made it better, too, is also if it would have given the movie a reason for everyone to split up. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And do their own thing instead of it being like it just doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work. It doesn't work at all.
It does not work.
Because now we do cut back to Sarah and Gracie, who were just retold everything in the prologue at this point again.
Yeah, it's the same.
I mean, in this case where I think I don't think the prologue worked because one, it was too vague.
It was.
And it just feels like a lazy way of opening the movie and connecting the house to Evers and Evers through the stupid pamphlets.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. Because now we go back to the room of Madame Leona, where it's revealed that Elizabeth is back for some reason.
Yeah,
I don't know where she went.
I would like if they had explained a little bit.
Yeah. And we get a cryptic way to find the key that will release them all from this shit or something.
Yeah, sure, why not? I don't care.
I
would have been all for a cryptic ghost treasure hunt if, like, literally anything else this family did made sense.
Yeah, well, like I said, it's just little tasks. It's MacGuffins to extend the plot of the movie.
Yes.
And not even, like, in a creative way of, like, this being set up. We're almost to the end of the movie, and we're getting this just now.
Yeah, again.
Yeah.
Could have been cool, but, like, we only do a scavenger hunt for one item.
Yeah, and for some reason now, his family's first and not work.
Yeah, that is a little odd, especially since, like, the movie still continues to hammer home this idea that, like, he doesn't know his own kids very well.
No.
Like, half the jokes are his kids being like, Dad, you'd know this if you were part of my life. From, like, this point forward, that's, like, most of the jokes.
Yeah. Well, and on top of that, so from here we get to busting out of the wall in the graveyard because it's the inconceivable guys. His we'll go my way, which... Why is that his way? We are clearly on the second floor.
Mm-hmm.
How did they get any of this shit up there?
I don't know. I do know that the line is straight out of the ride.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the only reason I can think why it's in this movie.
Well, and on top of yeah, that's exactly what it is, because they haven't been locked in the house yet.
No.
There's nothing that explains why they're going to take this carriage ride to a graveyard that, as far as we know, butts up right against the house.
Yes, yeah, even if it doesn't, it can't be that far away.
No, exactly. And I don't know, it just this part also, I'm sure it's probably why it's part of the ride, because everyone from the party is just stuck behind for some stupid reason. Yes. I mean, it's not like
yeah, no, it is a scene out of the ride, but, like, it's not well done, and it's not tied in such a way that, like, brings about the memory of the ride. Because, like, the part that this is from is really brief.
Yeah, well, it's also just, like, the curse is never explained to the point of, like, why does this man hanging himself force everyone who's... And it's not even portrayed like everyone at the party. It's everyone who seems to have ever died, be in that cemetery, is now stuck.
Yeah, I would... Again, part of the praise of Scooby-Doo Zombie Island was, while being cat people was stupid, we at least were very well explained the curse.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, okay, here's why all these mismatching ghosts are actually here.
Yeah.
Instead of like, well, just everyone's here. It's a party.
And then the other thing that I wish had been brought into the movie a little bit better, because once I heard the director talk about it, I was like, oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. So the farther away from the house you go, the less person-like the ghosts get, which is why once we get to the graveyard, everyone's zombie-esque, as opposed to, like, proper ghosts.
That's stupid.
It is stupid, but, like, at least there was a thought to it. However, it's not portrayed well in the movie at all, and the way the director talks about it, it feels like it was something that was supposed to be really obvious. I didn't catch it until I, like, listened to him talk about it.
Yeah. Well, and also it's the same thing with, like, the three ghosts in the carriage
who are literally just part of the ride.
Well, and they were also cut elements from the movie, but they wanted to keep them in there.
Yeah.
And also, I just hate the one-off line from the kid, I see dead people. It's like, shut up.
I also hate that line only because even when this movie came out, that was a tired line.
Mm-hmm.
If this movie had come out closer to that movie, I could see, like, maybe that being kind of fun. But by this point, that's like the 6th movie that had done that line.
Yeah, and it's just the one out there line that doesn't fit with the rest of the movie either. Like,
no.
There's not other lines that reference other movies. It's just like that one stupid, oh, we did the thing, guys. That's exactly what it is. It makes me feel like whenever they make, like, video game movie adaptations where it's like, oh, look, we did the line. We said the thing.
We said the thing. Yeah, no, it does.
We know games.
This does very much feel like we know horror.
Yeah.
No, you don't.
No, God. Because, yeah, right after this, we cut back to the mansion where Sarah's shown the wedding dress, which then we get the line, truly love someone, they never leave, which is stupid as shit. Why even invite her if you already know Elizabeth never leaves?
Yeah, again, I would really appreciate the magic system being explained a little bit more.
Yeah. Then we cut to the graveyard where we get dumb squishy noises.
Oh, yeah. Not just dumb squishy noises. Straight out of a Looney Tunes cartoon, dumb squishy noises.
Yeah. At least there's not the Wilhelm scream.
That, as far as I remember.
Yeah. But we stumble upon singing busts that are voiced by the Dapper Dans, who actually do singing for Disney, from what I understand.
They are a delight. If you ever get to see a live performance, I highly recommend the Dapper Dans.
I also do like, animation-wise, their jerking style, where it's not, like, super fluid, but it's not, like, super stiff, too.
Okay, I have mixed feelings about it.
All right.
So when this movie came out, this was a fairly good portrayal of the statues that they're based off of the ride. However, since then, Disney has updated all 3 parks rides to now have the projection overlay of the 4 heads.
Okay.
And so now the heads look incredibly realistic. Like, really realistic. It's very cool. They no longer look like this, which just makes this look bad.
Yeah, it...
For a ride that was pushing technology boundaries when it came out and, like, still amazes people, like, the elevator and the dancing ballroom scene still, like, wow people.
Okay.
Despite one of those technologies being from the 1800s. I feel like, and I'm not saying this movie needed more money. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm just saying, like, put some effort into, like, not reproducing what the ride currently is doing. But, like, this was a ride that they already knew was going to be updated. It had already been updated once by this time. And they already knew that every time they updated it, they tried to, like, press more lore. They tried to press more technology. They tried to continue on somehow with this ride.
It feels like this one is... It's like whenever, like, we see something like Disney's remaking all these live actions, it's them sticking so heavily with the nostalgia that they don't really try and do something different. Because, like... Personally, I did like the reimagining of the Jungle Book. It was much darker. It was much more mature.
Yeah, it was
fun. And then
fun.
you get to Beauty and the Beast, and it's just more darker in aesthetics, really, than anything.
Yeah, and I can see where some of the, like, attempt is going, especially, like, with Beauty and the Beast. But there is a giant disconnect, especially from 2000s to, I would argue, still, though Jungle Cruise is kind of starting to bridge the gap between pushing the boundaries with their movies and pushing the boundaries with their parks. They've always been innovators in the park leading world. Like, there's very few who hold a candle to the money and the backing that Disney can provide with, like, innovations and technology boosts that they can push out. But with the movies, it doesn't feel like they put the same effort in. No. Because, like, this ride, yeah, it's a cool ride, but I would argue that it's not, like, one of their selling point rides. At least it wasn't originally. It is now, for sure, 100%. But originally it really wasn't. They were much more focused on things like Peter Pan or Dumbo.
Okay. Yeah, no, this...
But even though it wasn't a, like, main theme ride, they still tried. This doesn't feel like they tried.
No, not at all. And, I don't know, I don't know, because I think you're hitting on something there, too, because the heads are there, and I think in another setting it'd be kind of an interesting, like, little gimmick. But part of it is, it feels like, it's like when we talked about Bleeding Steel, where it just felt like gag to gag, or not Bleeding Steel, what were we talking about where it was like gag to gag? I'm trying to remember, but anywho, that's what it is it just feels like it's heading from one piece of nostalgia to the next without any real connection, because... Like, immediately he's like, well, if you guys aren't going to be helpful, and then you hear, like, the daughter 15 feet away, I see it from over here. It's like, you guys aren't looking that hard because there's not that big of a hill by you. It's just... No. It's just one stupid bit after the next.
Yeah, and, like, don't get me wrong. I'm all for the Dapper Dans being in this. I love them. I think they were a great choice for this. And the head singing, again, part of the ride, sure, whatever. But the heads weren't annoying in the ride. They weren't, like... obnoxiously unhelpful in the ride. They are just kind of towards the end and part of, like, the ooh, cool.
The end credits kind of bit.
Yeah, almost. They're pretty close to the end of the ride. So, why are the heads so prominent in the movie?
And even then, they're not. Like, it's just a moment to be like, hey, look, we did the thing, guys.
They did do the thing, and then they eventually bring the thing back, which, again, I don't get, but... Whatever.
Because now it's time for the mausoleum with magic self-lighting torches, because it's not a spooky movie without them.
I don't hate them, but again, we could have been more campy. This is an instance of, like, a good level of camp that this movie could have been in. Yeah. This whole time.
Well, and it's quickly distracted because, again, none of the characters are interesting because the dad's like, I don't understand Latin. the daughter perfectly translated because, oh, you thought it was dumb that I studied Latin. It's like, why would you? Like, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you have no character. We don't understand why you're studying Latin.
Also, like, it's never really explained. Like, it's implied she took it at school.
Or no, it's not even in school. It seems like she just did it in her free time to study Latin. All we know is she's got a boy band poster on her door, and she kills spiders.
She kills spiders, got a boy band poster, and fluently speaks Latin?
Yeah.
What?
It's like the rest of the movie being like roughly stitched together to try and be nostalgic.
Yeah. Again, we could have been real campy and real funny, but everyone's too normal.
Yeah. And I mean, honestly, who set up all this? Why is everyone so cryptic and like...
I don't hate the cryptic part because I'm hoping for a campier version of this, where the whole thing is like one big riddle that we have to solve.
Yeah, because you want it to be like is he a Dr. Perot?
Poirot?
Yeah.
No, he is not a doctor.
Because you want it to be like that type of movie, and that's what this movie tries to be, but in a really bad way, because like no one's really solving anything. They're just like,
no, the riddles have no solving to do. You
it's
just
like
go there.
The Black Crypt, and it's like, well, yeah, it's the only thing that's giant and sitting in the middle with the skeleton, with the mummy basically open, holding a key, which makes no sense why it's so hard to pull it out of its hands.
Very stiff rigor mortis.
Yeah, I don't know, because, I mean, right after this, they drop the key and Megan is sent after it, which, honestly, who set up any of these booby traps? If everyone wants to move on, why is everyone making it so goddamn hard to do it?
Yeah, that's one of the parts, again, that I don't really understand, because, like...
Well, I mean...
I can understand, like, if there was a division amongst the ghosts of, like, who wants to move on and who doesn't. That would have made more sense.
Well, there is one little thing that tries to explain it. It's Rambley says something along the lines of like, you don't even know what's worse than purgatory. And it's like, how the hell do you even know any of this shit? But like, why do you have the powers?
Yeah, again, not explained. Could have gone a little heavier on like the explaining of the supernatural bit, and like if our intro explained the supernatural part instead of the background bit, that would have helped a lot. Yeah,
if it explained like Gracie did some ritual that trapped his pain, but ended up trapping everyone else. There's just jack shit that's explained about this movie.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah, and yeah, I mean it's just stupid. I mean, because on top of that, also here's the thing: the reason the zombies got moved away, or they used zombies, is because they didn't have budget or the time to do more ghosts too.
Yeah, well, that's not the worst, because again, like, the ride, that's not necessarily inaccurate.
It's not outside of the realm of being spoopy.
No, it's fine.
Yeah. Also, where the hell do all these spiders come from?
Well, as someone who lives in a house that has multitude of spiders, I can assure you that this is a normal amount of spiders. I'm just kidding, this is way too many spiders.
It's a ridiculous amount.
Also, like, don't get me wrong, I'm all for not having that many real spiders, but these are really bad CGI spiders.
Yeah. Well, and
even for 2003.
And on top of that, they also used they used real spiders to try and add to it but the reason they had to add CGI is because the real spiders were technically kind of hibernating at this time of year and were real sluggish.
Yeah, I mean, that is, spiders are not trainable. They are insects.
And they're also tarantulas, so...
Yeah, again, I'm all for using CGI bugs and spiders. I do think that, like, especially for a scene like this, it's the only way you're gonna get the shot you want.
Yeah.
But can we, like, at least make it look like the spiders are touching the door?
Yeah, it's not like...
They look like they're floating on top of the door.
Yeah, it's not like the Mummy where the scarabs feel real.
Yeah, there's no weight to these spiders. They very much look like they are just stickers on the wall.
Yeah, exactly. And so they escape back to the mansion, which it took them a whole carriage ride to get to this place, but they're able to get to the mansion in like 2 seconds.
Yeah, the whole mansion's layout makes no sense.
Yeah, which they're all, for like everything supposing to be like booby trapped and prevent them from finding the truth, there's moving like, pretty freely through everything.
There's like 2 booby traps.
Yeah, which they're taken to a chest which has the real letter that had the hidden secret that we don't know just yet.
Whoa. Which
the butler is revealed to be the bad guy. Shocker.
Well, okay, I'm not upset that the butler's the bad guy because, the butler always did it.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that's a trope. They leaned into the trope. I'm okay with it.
Yeah. Which, I don't know. I mean, why? I don't know. It's just stupid because even on top of that, like, they're trying to kill the ghosts. It makes no sense either. It's
I don't know about the killing the ghost parts.
Yeah. Because the dad's shot out of the house, and Sarah is still with Gracie.
Boy, Gracie is the best storyteller ever. He has her enamored for like 4 hours.
Yeah, because now he's revealing his goal and he's a ghost.
Yeah, I mean, good on him for trying to like break it to her slowly.
Yeah.
Like, again, like, I like Gracie's character. I'm not mad that she spends this long talking to him. I'm just upset that
It's not a big part of the movie either.
No,
because like it's just dropped on a set like, oh well, yep, you look like my dead lover.
Yeah, I feel like, again, if we would just get rid of Jim's character altogether and spend more time talking to her and finding out what she likes and like why she is spooked out by being the reincarnation of this guy's wife, more so than just like, ooh, ghost, ah.
Yep. Yeah, it's just because I mean now we cut back to Jim, who's trying to get wait, is Jim kicked out of the house just yet?
Yeah, I think
so.
Yeah,
That's right. Ramsley kicks him out, and he's trying to get back in, which the house self-heals?
Yeah, again, not explained super well.
Yeah.
I know there's some fan theories about how and why the house can do what it can do. I don't care. Again, I like the ride very much, and I love following the stupid lore that goes with it, and like, especially if there's like, because there's a whole society around like trying to figure out what the lore is, who did what, who is who. Like, that's part of the fun of the ride, right? Because this ride's been going on for decades.
But it's got here.
But
okay,
this movie tries too hard to like put in new lore.
It's got a more mystery than Inception does.
Yes, because it's decades old, and you know, I talked about how there's like the two main Imagineers, but that's not really true. There was a lot of Imagineers who worked on it and who all had input on it.
Yeah.
There's a whole graveyard of them out front. Granted, most of them aren't dead. But like, this movie just kind of like throws in its own lore to the ride where there isn't any.
Okay.
Instead of using their already existing lore.
And instead of trying to make it movie relatable, then
like,
ride relatable.
Like,
it's a movie that's just got a bunch of random ride bits thrown in.
Yeah, instead of like, you know, trying to pull in more of the ride.
Okay. Well, it's also revealed Gracie's a bit of a dickhead because he's blackmailing Sarah. The kids are locked up in a trunk.
I do like the kids locked in a trunk part. That feels like a good, proper Spoopy movie thing.
Yeah.
That's fun. I also like that they eventually get like chained. The trunk gets chained closed and then hung. That's good and spooky.
So I'll get to that in just a second because now it's wedding time. Outside, Madame Leota somehow
she hamster ball wheels her way over.
I think she was maybe in the carriage with them at one point.
I don't know.
And this is the part where Jim realizes family comes first.
Which is weird because like he supposedly made that connection at the beginning of this endeavor.
Halfway through or something when they had to go rescue Sarah.
And it feels like Jim's going to make the same realization every time he misses his anniversaries coming up real soon.
Yeah, which we get the one-off line, only true failure is where you stop trying, which is actually not a bad line.
It's not a bad line, it just comes from him.
Yeah, but it also comes from the rest of the movie being so comedy-heavy.
Yes.
That it just is like, okay, why are we being serious?
Yeah.
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 Which also, the ghosts are forgetting that even back in that day, Sarah's still technically married, whether she's alive or dead.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, we could have just gotten rid of Jim's character and solved a lot of problems.
Because Jim does get back in, crashing the car into the green garden area.
Okay, the 11-year-old little boy in me thinks this scene is hilarious.
Yeah.
The adult in me does not find the scene funny at all.
Yeah, it's just.
I think the 11-year-old in me just likes watching car crash and then the funny hold on to something, and she goes, "With what?"
Yeah.
Like the 11-year-old me, tee-hee, very funny. Adult me, this is a little out of the rest of the movie.
Yeah, and this is the part where it's just like, well, why are the children hanging from the trunk? Like
spooky.
Not even like hanging like in some random part of the mansion. They're hanging like just outside the door that Jim needs to get to.
I would have appreciated if they were hanging in like the attic.
Yeah.
Or like a seance room. That would have been cool.
Yeah, something other than like at the end of a hallway that Jim has to get through moving statues to get to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because he comes to the rescue. He brings the letter. Truth is revealed that Ramsley actually killed Elizabeth.
The butler did it the whole time.
Also, it never really explains why the marriage is forbidden. I can only assume because it's 1800s.
Yeah, no, that's exactly why.
But they don't really even...
Again, this is that era in Disney where we're trying to pretend not to be weird and upsetting, but we still are.
Yeah. Also, like, what is this butler's powers? Like, he opens the gates of hell and there's a fire dragon that comes out that takes the butler. And
why is... Okay, he opens the gates of hell. Why does the fire dragon come eat him? Why does it not attack everyone else? Why him? He's the one who did this.
I don't know.
Was there a time limit?
Probably.
What? Like, again, we were close to being cool, because don't get me wrong, fire dragon from hell, dope.
Yeah.
The scene looks cool.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's not my favorite, but it's fine.
Okay, imagine this on Disney Channel and not a theatrical release.
Okay.
Then it's cool.
Yeah, from your viewing experience, like...
If you were watching it on TV in early 2003, this is cool. Or 2003.
Yeah.
Then, this scene's pretty dope. Unfortunately, I don't understand any of it. But it looks cool.
Yeah.
I like the glowy fire eyes. That was cool.
It's fine. Jim ends up falling down and he's saved by Gracie, but
unfortunately,
Sarah still dies, which the ghost orb resurrects her and they realize that, that was Elizabeth the whole time, which...
It makes no sense.
What?
I don't understand. Where did she come from? Where did she go? Where did she come from? Who's Cotton Eye Joe?
Ramsley was probably just forcing her away or some shit.
I don't even know. If we could have just explained it a little.
But then why even kidnap Sarah if Gracie knew that the orb was Elizabeth?
I don't know.
It's just a stupid way to end the movie because...
It is, because this isn't even really how the ride ends.
Yeah, because they're given the deed to the house to do whatever they like with it as everyone ascends up into heaven. And Madame Leota is kept, as well as the singing heads are too.
What? Okay, but why? Why didn't they get to ascend? Did heaven just go like, no, fuck you?
I think Madame Leota would personally like immortality. She's just kind of hanging around because there's no one else.
I totally agree with you. But, like, it kind of feels like they took the only bits that someone who rode the ride once way back in the day remembers and kept them because they're cute.
Yeah, because now we get the actual end of the movie of bad CGI driving into the sunset on a very long bridge over water, which leads me to think something. I think they're all dead.
I would be okay with that.
I think they are all dead because this is a stupid ending.
It
is. Also, it's the only way that explains everything that else happened. They were poisoned at dinner. They were already dead.
Okay, do you want to get even angrier?
Yes.
Okay, so the way that the ride ends is when the ride ends, you get warned for hitchhiking ghosts, and you turn to see a mirror, and it's really a mirror of yourself, but in the mirror is a ghost projected on to make it look like he's hitchhiking with you off the ride. How much better could this ending have been if instead of the singing heads and Madame Leota, we have hitchhiking ghosts?
You know what would have been better? Instead of a group of random people, one scared random dude thrown through this mansion for some stupid reason.
Yes.
Here's guy gets lost, ends up in mansion, or guy. Here's what we do. Reverse, Lady in White.
Ooh. Okay.
Guy gets picked up hitchhiking by 3 ghosts.
Okay.
Taken to the mansion, and then gets sent on a weird-ass journey through the mansion because he can't leave because the road's flooded.
That would have actually worked much better.
Yes, this movie is so dumb. And here's the thing. So, okay, it was released alongside Timeline, Bad Santa, and In America. It was successful in terms of budget, but not in reception.
No, I didn't know a single person who liked this movie when it came out.
But I don't know. I don't.
And I know online there's several people saying, "Oh, it's now a cult classic. They show it every year around Halloween."
Oh, fuck off.
Disney's just cashing in, and it's one of the few movies they have that's Halloween themed. That's why it's on. Actually,
Disney Plus, I am a little curious about this. There are a handful of like horror adjacent movies that are on Disney now, that like Zombie High or some stupid shit like that. And I'm just I low-key kind of want to go, because I'm not doing 31 Days of Halloween this year. I'm sorry, people. I don't have the time, and it was exhausting doing it last year, too. But, like, the horror-adjacent Disney, I kind of want to go down a little rabbit hole of, like, exploring what type of adjacent horror they did.
Well, and even then, Disney's kind of shot itself in the foot, because Disney has always had more than what they've put out on, like, ABC every Halloween, pretending that, like, oh, we've only got 3 Halloween movies. No, they don't. They have so many. And granted, some of them are better than others, but because of Disney Plus, you can just watch all of the different sequels and reiteration versions.
There's a Muppet one that came out like last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah, there's several Winnie the Pooh versions of Halloween that they're never on ABC because they're not good. They're for little kids, but that's what Disney likes to pretend that their Halloween movies are for. That's what they pretend this movie is for. Like, oh, it's for the youth. No, it's not. This movie is garbage.
Yeah, and on top of that, I think we hit it pretty hard too. That I don't know if it doesn't go heavy in one way or the other. On one side, it's trying to be like a whodunit mystery, while also trying to be a family-friendly spooky movie.
Yeah, and I talked about how, like, oh, well, that's part of the joy of the ride, is it's these two dynamics. But the two dynamics were both very extreme and forced to be together. Yeah. This is neither extreme.
And you hit on it a little bit earlier, too, because I think it was the writer mentioned that their goal was to pull from the classics. They wanted to puts an everyday person in an extreme situation like Abbott and Costello meet Frankenstein.
Sure, I'm all for that. Don't hire Eddie Murphy to be a normal person, though. Eddie Murphy is an over-the-top character. That's why he works as Donkey. That's why he works in the Babysitter movie.
Daddy Daycare.
That's it. Daddy Daycare. That's why he works in those movies, is because he is crazily over the top. Like, his jokes are all one-liners. That's why he works in those movies. He doesn't work in this movie because he doesn't portray a very good, like, run-of-the-mill dad character.
And that's the thing. I think it's the era of, like, when it feels like he was trying to rebrand himself in this era.
He definitely, during this time, especially with Disney movies that he was in, leaned really heavy into being one-liners. Like, he was just off of the high of Mulan with this. Which, you know, some people liked him in that, and some people didn't.
I personally like him as Mushu.
I liked him too, but there is something to say about the fact they cut Mushu completely out of the live action.
Yeah. Again, Disney trying to make their live actions grittier and darker.
And granted, I was not a huge fan of the live action. There was quite a lot wrong with it.
I never saw it still.
We'll bitch about it eventually, don't worry. But
after we do Mulan 3.
No.
Is there a Mulan 3?
No, there is a Mulan 2, though.
I was gonna say, if there's a third one, I don't know how.
I don't think there's a third one. I know there's a second one.
You know what? We got the internet.
We do. We live in the future. The second one, I only like for, like, 2 songs, and the fact that they try and get the other guys that are in her military squad with her girlfriends. No, there is not. Thank God.
Yeah. Canceled.
Thank God. Because the second one was bad.
Oh, no. Mulan 3 was a live-action remake that was originally supposed to be on Disney Plus in 2022. Or in 2020. It was canceled.
Oh, well, I'm okay with that as well.
Yeah.
That's fine. That's perfectly acceptable. But, like... And the other thing that's kind of upsetting is, like, they proved with Pirates that they can take the original source and spin it and create a full new experience with it. That's why Pirates of the Caribbean worked. It wasn't really a retelling of the ride. They barely pulled elements from it.
It just had pirates and was set in the Caribbean.
And, like, granted, there's a couple of scenes that are, like, a direct nod to the ride, but it's honestly, like, less than 5. And that's why it works. Because it's the handful of scenes that people actually remember, and they're not harped on, and they are not brought back.
Okay, so it's like the little Easter egg, like, if you're in the know, whereas this one is just
it's
chock
like shoving
full
it down your throat.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why, like, and that's part of the reason why Jungle Cruise worked as well, in my opinion, is... Like, there were little nods to it, and I would argue that Jungle Cruise was a little heavy-handed than, like, Pirates, but Jungle Cruise is supposed to be a comedy.
Okay.
This one, yeah, they tried too hard to, like, directly be like, Do you remember the funny statues? You remember them? You remember the funny statues?
It's the exact same thing with video game adaptations, where it's like, we did the thing, guys. We said the line.
And
it's like because it's on my mind, because the guy who played Katahara is also Raiden in the new Mortal Kombat.
Yes.
Like, whenever in Mortal Kombat they say fatality, it's like, okay,
we didn't have to put it in every time.
Yeah, it's like, you're not like a referee, or not even a referee. It's like, or a commentator. It's just like, you just randomly said the game line.
Yeah, and that's what's upsetting, is we know that they had the ability, like, easily to do something really cool, especially since the source material is so rich, and like there is so much they could have done with it.
Mm-hmm.
And they just kind of threw a bunch of stuff at the wall.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel thought through. The writing doesn't feel like it was polished in any way. The dialogue...
No, not at all. Jesus Christ, it was rough.
All of the dialogue feels like everyone had stiff lines except for Eddie Murphy, who was told to wing it, which I know he wasn't, but that's just how it came across, because his dialogue stands out so differently.
I would not be surprised if he wrote all his own lines.
I also wouldn't.
Yeah.
And, like, don't get me wrong, the kid actors did a very good job, but, like, they feel stiff and they weren't given a whole lot to work with. The ghost actors were clearly told to be over the top and were clearly already knew the source material.
But even not, like, fully over the top either. Like, half the ghosts are, like, they feel like a regular person, and then the other two are just, like, super campy. Oh, we're gonna shoot this one in the eye. We're gonna try and shoot the apple off his head, but we're gonna really shoot him in the eye.
Yeah, again, there was so much potential. And that's kind of the disappointment, is the ride is so good.
Mm-hmm.
There's so much to the ride to enjoy, and granted, there's plenty that you could critique about the ride. It is an older ride. There's lots to be updated still.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why it was reproduced in 2 other parks.
Yeah, I get that.
And this movie, there's a reason why the sequel was canceled.
Yeah, well, I mean, there is a reboot slotted for next year.
Which I would...
think Owen Wilson's going to be in it.
Maybe. I'm kind of hoping that they've learned, and I'm kind of hoping that this is like a direct to Disney Plus, because honestly, a lot of Disney's Halloween gold is when they don't put in the, like, big star names.
Unless it's like the Black Cauldron.
Which ended up being good, but that was partially because they accidentally created the scariest bad guy on the planet.
And before we get into the ratings, I'll continue our little bit of, like, George of the Jungle micro-review discussion on Happy Meal toys.
Mm-hmm.
The Haunted Mansion, in fact, did have 6 Happy Meal toys, which
it did.
I vaguely remember the toys. And you can see them on hauntedmansion.com/movie1.
And the only reason I remember this movie as a kid is because they played the... It wasn't even the actual theme song. It was the Very Superstitious, the song.
Very Superstitious.
Yeah, that one. They played that one constantly as, like, promotional stuff for it. And as a kid, I wasn't super familiar with the song by itself, so I assumed the song was for the movie. And then, like, later on, my mom was like, no, that's a separate song. You can just listen to it without having to watch this stupid commercial. And once I found that out, I was like, oh, I have no desire to see this movie.
Yeah.
I think I watched it because it was on at a friend's house. I don't remember having any drive to see this movie. The toys were not interesting to me. And, like, by this point, I had been on the ride. I got to ride this ride before the movie came out. I loved this ride. I think I, like, bribed my parents to ride it twice, which was saying something because the line was long.
Yeah.
It was a really long line for this.
Well, and I know for me as a youth...
Actually,
yeah, I would have been in middle school. We would have... No. Oh, yeah, I'm... 2003, yeah, I was entering 7th grade. You would have been in 6th grade.
Yes, but that was my own fault.
Yeah, well, but, like... I mean, the thing is... And I've talked about this a handful of times, so I'll leave it light. I was never a Disney kid. I didn't really grow up with Disney. We had the VHSs only because... our neighbors pawned them off when their kid got over them, and
sure,
they're like, oh, well, your kids, like, will watch Disney. It's like, I was never into it, so, like, these types of movies, I guess, never had their appeal to me as a kid, or even as an adult, for the most part, nowadays.
And I wouldn't argue that, like, I don't dislike Disney. I do, but it's not because it's Disney, and that feels like that's what this movie was trying to pull, was like, you liked Haunted Mansion, didn't you? Don't you want to watch the movie?
Yeah.
And it's like, okay, well, none of the commercial that you showed me for has anything to do with the ride. The music that you chose to play for it, very superstitious. Don't get me wrong. Good song. Nothing to do with the ride.
Yeah, and it's not like Ready Player One that plays heavily on nostalgia.
No.
But, like, that one at least is like, okay, but it's an overbearing amount of references in a good way.
This movie very much felt like it was aimed at the preteen who maybe had ridden the ride once, and it was aimed at the parent to try and drag their preteen, and the parent hasn't ridden that ride in 10 years.
Exactly. So, I guess, Chris, at the end of it, what do you rate this movie?
Oh, this is bad. This is just straight up a bad movie.
Same. I am hands down bad.
Which is disappointing, because again, I love the ride. I normally like Disney spoopy movies, especially the stupid ones. This one it misses totally on all fronts.
Oh yeah, no, it just, there's nothing, and that's the issue, is like, I want to, like, I try and find at least something decent in something, like, me and my brother, when we talk about tattoos, we're always trying to, like, talk about, like, okay, at least the line, or even art in general, is like, okay, well, there's something positive in this, there's always things that can improve, but what's the positive thing about this? There's nothing in this movie that I find really positive at all.
And this is disappointment from someone who enjoys children's movies, and I also generally enjoy dumb children's movies.
Yeah.
Like, I like House with a Clock in Its Walls. Like, it's dumb. It's Jack Black humor across the board. It has better dialogue than this, and one of the running jokes is a cat pooping.
Beautiful.
Yeah, like, that's a funnier running joke than the singing heads.
There's not, and that's the thing. There's not even like a running joke in this movie, and I think that's maybe something it's missing, is that there's really not a running gag. It's just all over the place.
There's really nothing tying this movie together.
No,
not even the idea of family. Because let's be real, the second this movie's over, he looks like he hates his family again.
Kind of, yeah. Just like he's in the bliss of like, oh, we're back together for a little bit.
And like his family's immediately being annoying in the car.
Which even furthers the fact that they're probably dead, and why he's annoyed at the end, because he's realizing, shit, I've got to live with these people the rest of my life.
Yeah, it's just there's no morality to it. There's no story really. It's so one note. I don't know what to do with it, which is disappointing. So, I wanted to like it.
Chris, would you recommend this movie?
No, that's so disappointing, because the ride, I recommend everyone try and ride the ride, despite the fact the lines are really long.
I mean, I'll probably never go to Disney World or Disneyland, so...
No, but this is one of the few ones that, even despite your motion sickness, you could ride this one, because there is no speed to it. You sit in a little automatron, and you, like, get shuffled from room to room.
I'd appreciate that.
You would like this one.
Yeah, I can't recommend this movie at all. And honestly,
there's so many other good Disney Halloweens for every age level, for every humor style. This just isn't it.
Yeah, and I mean, we've talked quite about Disney lately, and honestly, I'm really glad that this year we're kind of taking a break from having a spoopy movie in October, which everyone get ready for a witchy and glamorous film talks for October.
It will be a good time.
Good
time is had by some.
Had by some. I'll hold that off for our talk for our next episode.
Fair.
But anywho, this has been The Good, the Bad, and the Weird.
Thanks for listening.
Peace and stay spoopy. Thank you for stopping by this here town of The Good, the Bad, and the Weird. We appreciate your listenership, and if you want more of our takes in your life, feel free to check us out on social media at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, or TGTBTW for short. As well, if we missed a fact, your favorite part of a movie, or just have a suggestion and want to reach out and say howdy, feel free to email us at tgtbtwpodcast@gmail.com. And feel free to join our Discord at The Good, the Bad, and the Weird Podcast, where we talk about movies, just share random banter here and there. And always check out our podcasters, streamers, or any other content creator we shout out in our episodes. We really appreciate it. And as always, thank you for listening. Peace.